It's past 2 in the morning. You're not asleep. And somewhere between staring at the ceiling and checking your phone for the 5th time, the same thought comes back. The one you don't say out loud. The one that sounds something like, what if I'm already behind? You've been running the numbers again. You do that. The age math. The quiet inventory of everyone around you, and where they are, and where you are, and how the gap between those two things seems to grow a little wider every time you look. Your friend just bought a house. Someone you went to school with is on their 2nd kid. And someone you honestly never thought would outpace you. Someone you considered average, and you feel guilty for thinking that, but you thought it. Just landed something you didn't even know you wanted until you saw that they had it. And you're here, in this apartment, with this life. At 25, you tell yourself it doesn't bother you. You've gotten very good at saying that. But tonight, the ceiling isn't letting you off the hook. Tonight the thought is too loud to talk over. So you pick up your phone. Not because anyone texted, just because the light is something to look at when the quiet gets too heavy. And that's when you see it. A message from a number you don't recognize. No name, no photo, just words on a screen at 2 in the morning. You almost scroll past it, but something makes you stop. Maybe it's the hour. Maybe it's the loneliness. Maybe it's the fact that you've been lying there asking the universe for something, anything, and this is what arrived. You open it. And the first line makes your breath catch. I know you're awake. I know exactly what you're thinking about right now. And I need you to read every word of this. You sit up. Don't try to figure out how this is possible. Just read. I don't have much time. And I have things to tell you that I wish someone had told me 15 years ago. This is you. At 40, you stare at the screen. Your first instinct is to laugh. To send this to the group chat with a clever caption. To dismiss it the way you dismiss most things that catch you off guard. But then the next message comes. You're going to want to screenshot this and send it to your friends. Don't. Just read. Your hand goes still. And then another message. The song you have on right now. The one you've been listening to on repeat for 3 weeks. The one you found the night things ended with her. You've never told anyone what that song actually means to you. The phone nearly slips from your hand. You are alone in the dark at 2 in the morning and someone, just reached through 15 years and touched the one corner of your life you've never shown anyone. So you keep reading. I'm not going to pretend I have everything figured out. I don't. I'm sitting at my kitchen table in a house that still needs work, with a cup of tea that went cold an hour ago. I'm 40 years old. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. I haven't solved everything. But I know things now that would have changed the shape of our life. And I'm not willing to stay quiet about them. So let me start with the first one. 3 months from now, maybe 4, someone is going to reach out to you. About an idea. A project. Something that on the surface will seem too small to bother with. Too uncertain. Too much work for too little promise. You are going to say you're busy. And then you're going to forget. I need you to not forget. I can't tell you exactly what it is. The details blur across this distance. But I remember the feeling of realizing, 10 years later, that it was a door. And I walked past it because I was so focused on the door I thought I was supposed to walk through that I didn't recognize the one that was actually open. Doors don't always look like doors. Sometimes they look like inconveniences. Sometimes they look like coincidences. Sometimes they look like a message from someone you barely know at a time you didn't expect. Pay attention to all of it. Now I want to ask you something, and I need you to answer it honestly. How long have you been keeping that list in your head? The one where you measure your progress against everyone around you? The one that runs quietly in the background of every conversation, every scroll, every moment you let yourself want something? I kept mine for years. There was someone, you already know who I mean, and I spent the better part of a decade measuring my life against theirs. Every time they moved forward, I felt myself fall back. Not because anything in my life actually changed, but because their progress became evidence of my failure. What I didn't understand then is that I was never running the same race. I was looking at their lane and panicking that I was losing while I was running in a completely different direction toward a completely different finish line. The comparison didn't just waste time. It made me smaller. It made me hesitate when I should have moved. It made me question things that were actually working because they didn't look like the way other people's things were working. You want to know what comparison actually is? It's looking at someone else's chapter 20 and feeling ashamed of your chapter 7. And the cruelest part? Nobody posts chapter 7. Nobody shows the 2 a.m. ceiling. Nobody shows the years they spent in apartments, just like you're wondering if the window had already closed. You are watching a highlight reel and grading yourself against it. Please stop. I'm asking you from 15 years away. Stop. Here's something else I got wrong for a long time. I was waiting to feel ready. Not just ready, inspired. Certain. On fire. I wanted that moment where everything aligns and you just know and you move forward with this unstoppable energy. That moment came maybe 4 times in 15 years. 4 times. The rest of it was just showing up when I didn't want to. Sitting down when sitting down felt pointless. Sending the email I wasn't sure about. Making the call I was afraid of. Doing the thing even when the thing felt hollow. Motivation is a weather system. It comes and goes. You cannot schedule it. You cannot summon it with a playlist or a speech or the right quote on your phone screen. The version of you who has something real 10 years from now didn't get there because they woke up burning with passion every single day. They got there because they kept going on the days when the fire was completely out. And I want to tell you about 2 people. The first one you haven't met yet. They're going to come into your life through what looks like an accident. A conversation you didn't plan. A place you almost didn't go. And something they say, one specific sentence, in one specific moment, is going to land in you like a stone in still water. The rings from that stone go further than you can imagine right now. The second person is someone you already know, and you've been underestimating them. I'm not going to tell you who, but I want you to start paying attention differently. Not just to the obvious people, the loud ones, the ones who announce their impact. Pay attention to the quiet ones, the ones who show up without being asked, the ones who ask how you actually are and wait for the real answer instead of accepting fine. Some of the most important people in your life are already in your life. You just haven't seen them clearly yet. And then there was the night I almost stopped altogether. I need to tell you about that night. I was 28 years old. I had been trying, genuinely, consistently trying, for 3 years. And I had nothing to show for it. Nothing that anyone else could see. Nothing I could point to in a conversation. Nothing that would make sense at a dinner table when someone asked how things were going. And I was exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. The kind of tired that's there when you wake up. The kind where the first thing you feel in the morning is a low, quiet dread. And the last thing before sleep is a voice asking, what is the point of all this? I had a decision in front of me. A real one. 2 directions and no guarantee with either. One was safe, familiar, guaranteed to produce a life that looked fine from the outside. Manageable, predictable, the kind of life you could explain to anyone. The other was terrifying, uncertain, the kind of choice where you can't see past the first few steps, where you have no evidence that it will work, where you are essentially betting on yourself at a moment when you don't feel like a safe bet. I chose the terrifying one. Not because I was brave. I was not brave. My hands were shaking. I chose it because I realized something in that moment that I've never been able to fully explain to anyone since. The safe path was still a risk. Choosing comfort over meaning was its own kind of gamble. A bet that predictability would be enough. A wager that I wouldn't spend the next 40 years in the quiet ache of wondering what would have happened if I had just tried. I couldn't make that bet. So I took one small action. Not a grand leap. Not a cinematic moment. One small, terrifying, completely ordinary action. And that action led to another. And that led to another. And that chain, that long, unplanned, unseeable chain of small and terrifying and ordinary actions. That chain is the reason I'm sitting at this kitchen table tonight with a life I could not have designed or predicted. It started with one thing you did because you were too afraid not to. The turning point never looks like a turning point when you're standing in it. It looks like a Tuesday. Now I need to be honest with you. Not just the hopeful parts. The real parts. Because I promised you the truth. And you deserve the truth. I was afraid of asking for what I needed. From people I loved. from opportunities one wanted, from life itself. I learned to want things quietly, carefully, so that if they didn't happen, no one would know I'd wanted them. So I could protect myself from the visibility of disappointment. It looked like humility. It felt like safety. It was just fear with better posture. And it cost me deeply. There are things I didn't ask for that I would have received. There are conversations I never started that needed to happen. There are rooms I didn't walk into because I stood outside waiting for an invitation that was never going to come. You have to ask. I know that's uncomfortable. I know it feels like exposure. I know the fear that if you ask and the answer is no, you'll have confirmation of something you've secretly suspected about yourself. But the asking, just the act of it, changes you. Whether or not the answer is yes. I spent too long being angry at things I couldn't control, at people who didn't deserve the energy, at circumstances that weren't going to change no matter how much I resented them, at a version of the world I had decided was against me. Anger is expensive. I paid for it with years. Years when I was physically present, but somewhere else entirely in every way that actually mattered. I don't want you to make that same payment. There's someone, and I can feel you already thinking of a face, a name, someone who needed more of me than I gave them. Not necessarily romantically, just more of my actual presence. My full attention. The kind of listening that doesn't have one eye on the phone or one foot already moving toward the door. I kept telling myself there would be more time. More time for the real conversations. More time to actually show up. There wasn't. There isn't. There is only ever this conversation. This room. This person in front of you. This moment. Show up for the people who matter. Fully. Now. Not after things settle. Not when life gets lighter. Life does not get lighter. It just gets different. Show up now. And the last thing. The one I still feel sometimes in the quiet. The years I spent being cruel to myself. That voice in your head. You know the one. That low, constant, merciless commentary on everything you do and don't do and should have done and failed to do. I let that voice have far too much power for far too long. I thought it was keeping me sharp. I thought the self-criticism was the engine of improvement. But there's a difference between honest reflection and punishment. I was punishing myself for being 25 and not knowing things you can only learn by living 40 years. For being human in the ways that being human requires. For being in the middle of a story and treating it like the ending had already been written. You are not behind. You are in the middle. That is a profound difference. And I need you to feel that. I know you're wondering why I sent this. I've been asking myself the same thing. Part of me knows I can't change everything. Some lessons only arrive through living them. You'll make some of the same mistakes I made. Probably more. That's not failure. That's just being alive. But I also know something now that I couldn't have known at 2 in the morning at 25. The fact that you're still awake. Still asking. Still running the numbers and feeling the weight of what hasn't happened yet. That's not failure. That's hunger. And hunger means you're still in it. People who are truly lost don't lie awake worrying about being behind. They stopped caring. You haven't stopped caring, which means you haven't stopped. I'm not going to tell you that everything works out perfectly. It doesn't. I'm not going to tell you the pain disappears or that it ever gets easy or that one day you'll wake up with all the answers. But I will tell you this. The life waiting for you on the other side of your courage is not the life you're imagining right now. It's stranger. It's harder. It's more beautiful in ways you don't have words for yet. And it is more yours than anything you could have planned or predicted or engineered from here. The only version of that life that doesn't exist is the one where you stopped. So don't stop. Not tonight. Not next year. Not when it looks like everyone else has figured something out that you haven't. Not when the apartment feels small and the ceiling feels final and the song is on repeat and the math doesn't add up. They're all lying awake too. Every single one of them. I promise you that. There's one last thing. And I need you to hear this more than anything else I've said tonight. This moment right now, this exact moment, the apartment, the dark, the 2 a.m. quiet, the ache you can't quite name. This moment is not nothing. This moment is the beginning of something. I know it doesn't feel that way. I know it feels like standing still while the world moves. But from where I'm sitting, 15 years from now, I can see it. This is where it starts. This is where you actually start. So put the phone down. Get some sleep. And tomorrow, just tomorrow, do the one thing you've been putting off. Not for the future. Not for some version of yourself years from now. Just for tomorrow. That's all I'm asking. One thing. One Tuesday. It's enough. It has always been enough. It was never too late. It was always just Tuesday.